A new take now on the historic coast-to-coast No Kings protests. Millions turned out in large cities and small towns to speak out against Trump administration policies and what many of them see as Trump's turn toward authoritarianism.
I love this country, and I think protesting is like the most American thing we can be doing.
This is the most American thing that you can do. Protest and speak for what you believe in.
The people who come out here and fight and who want to resist, those are the people who make change. Those are the people who make history. And there are way more, like I said, there are way more of us than there are of them.
We have a constitution for a reason. It provides us inalienable rights that we have to adhere to. And in this country, we have no kings, period.
Well, joining me now, we have Mark Leibovich, staff writer with The Atlantic, author and MSNBC political contributor, as well as Molly Jong-Fast, host of the Fast Politics podcast and an MSNBC political analyst, both of them good friends to us. Hey, you guys, it was rather heartening to listen to all those sound bites. They know what they're talking about. The most American thing to do, the turn towards authoritarianism by this president, that we don't have kings in this country. I'm curious your thoughts, Mark, on the turnout and how these protests unfolded.
Well, I think obviously it seems like very few people, if any, were dissuaded that Republicans were pushing that this was a hate America rally and so forth. It's sort of this over-the-top rhetoric they've been using, and you know, it's purely us versus them. And I do think the basics here are kind of numerical. I mean, I think if you look at the numbers yesterday, you know, if we're going to believe the reports, compared to the No Kings rally of last spring or early summer, whenever it was, there just seemed like a whole lot more. And the question is, are there more of this side or the other side? And it does seem like the resistance is taking some kind of form in a much more critical mass kind of way than maybe it was before, which I think, you know, could be quite heartening for those who are trying to resist Donald Trump and certainly Democrats. Yeah.
Your initial thoughts on it all, Molly, and you agree with Mark?
Yeah, I think yesterday was high stakes, right? Because there's a lot riding on the idea. There are not a lot of checks and balances in our government right now. There are not a lot of guardrails that are holding. So the idea that people, normal people, might be brave in a way that Republican politicians and the Supreme Court aren't is pretty incredible. Look, there are more people, there are more protests, and Donald Trump, and this is, I think, important from Trump 1.0 to Trump 2.0, and Donald Trump is less popular, right? He's underwater on everything. So the question, I think, is, you know, how long can the people in Trump's world keep this information from him, right?
So, Mark, we had Republicans calling this a hate America rally. In fact, here's what Speaker Mike Johnson said about it today.
There were a lot of hateful messages yesterday. I mean, we have video and photos of pretty violent rhetoric, calling out the president, saying fascists must die and all the rest. It's not about the people, it's about the message, it's about the ideology. And I will stand here every Sunday and talk with you about the dangers of Marxism and socialism. It is a dangerous ideology, and it is anti-American.
Is this a strong line of attack for the GOP?
I mean, it's ludicrous when you sort of look at the rhetoric that has come out of the White House itself, the leadership of the Republican Party, Republicans writ large. I mean, this is, look, you can go back and forth all day on like who started this and who's more at fault, but my God, I mean, just look at his Truth Social feed, and I'm sure Mike Johnson is probably sick of trying to like ignore it or pretend he's ignoring it or trying to answer for it and so forth. But look, I mean, the fact is, these were peaceful protests. The resistance does seem to be growing. It seems to be pretty big. And, you know, I don't know what information Donald Trump is getting. I mean, his poll numbers are not great. The Republican numbers are not great on the shutdown as far as the legislative agenda, certainly the big whatever bill you want to call it. So I don't know. I think the indicators can be pretty encouraging for the resistance. I just don't, you know, this is not new. This is basically the one party line Republicans have, which is that they are extremists, they are violent, and, you know, this is something we all need to resist.
So, Molly, I'm curious how you would measure the effectiveness of this kind of resistance and what impact you think or would expect to see on the president or his administration. But to your point, if they are keeping it from him, does it not allow him to effectively look at this and respond?
So I would say I think the most important thing that we have in this moment is the enablers. So Trump is Trump. He's always been Trump. He'll always be Trump. But the people around him who have enabled him, the people who didn't enable him the first time, I'm thinking of the wealth, the billionaire class that just jumped on board. Those guys, Trump needs those guys in order to do a lot of the stuff he wants to do. And I think that's important. The universities, some are resisting him now, MIT, this whole pact, they've rejected this pact, which I think is a pretty good sign. But, this is like if you just cave to Trump, perhaps you shouldn't, because millions of people want to have normal democracy. And I think that is really important. And again, Trump, it doesn't much matter if the enablers stop enabling him. If the Supreme Court says, no, you can't do this, like the lower courts have. If Republican politicians stand up to him and say, like, we serve in Congress because we have the power of the purse, and you can't take that money using pocket rescissions. There are checks and balances. It's just that a lot of people don't want to engage in them because they're scared of Trump. Now, millions of people being out there, and I think it's a really, think about Target. Target said goodbye to DEI, and what happened? Their sales, they had a drop off in sales. This is a great example of that. America is still America. People still believe what they believe. The question is, will there be any checks and balances on Trump? And my hope is that some Republicans will see this and be like, oh, maybe we should. Maybe we do want to get reelected someday.
Mark, Trump's former lawyer, Ty Cobb, was on our network earlier today, and he went to a No Kings protest. Does that surprise you? Do you have any sense to what degree Republicans and former Republicans took part? And let me say, we also read that Enrique Tarrio, of course, the one who organized the Stop the Steal rally on January 6th, he went and attended a No Kings rally. I believe his point was, he said, yeah, we don't have kings in this country, and I want to, make that point clear. That's pretty surprising.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are a lot of former Republicans or sort of lagging or sort of dormant Republicans who do not like Donald Trump at all. They're appalled by this. The fact is, though, none of them have any positions of power, from what I can tell. I mean, if you look at, the sort of dissident members of Congress that existed during his first term compared to what we see now, which is pretty much non-existent with a few exceptions, like especially recently Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie and people who sort of stand alone and sort of in their own universe in Republican Congress. But these people, certainly not in the Trump administration, do not exist. And so, yeah, I don't doubt for a second that there are people who are appalled by this, Republicans who are appalled by this, conservatives who are appalled by this, and probably Republicans and conservatives in power who are permanently appalled by this, but are too cowardly to do anything here. So, look, I mean, I think that's part of the coalition. Again, the question is, how big is this?